Okay. We are right at kind of the top of the hour just passed, so I want to be really mindful of folks' time and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for making the time. I am Kelly Rodriguez and I work at Seattle University School of Law. I'm the Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs here, and I oversee the Master of Legal Studies program, and I also work with some of our online JD students. Super excited to have you all. Virgie, I am going to let you introduce yourself, but thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for the conversation.
Welcome. Hi, everyone. I am Virgie Mondragon, a compliance leader at an aerospace industry. I work in a supply chain field. I have worked in contracting for 14 years, drafting, negotiating contracts, managing amendments, incorporating risk mitigation across the contract lifecycle. I work with the legal, finance, and operations to ensure contracts support business goals while staying compliant with state code and FAA regulations. I was drawn to supply chain because I enjoy aligning supplier strategy and resources with business needs to reduce risk and help the business enable growth. Currently, I mentor others to spot contract risks and build practical mitigation plans at my current work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I should mention, Virgie is a recent-ish grad from our MLS program in December, I think, of
Yeah.
2025, and was pursuing the program while working, right? So we can get in to that a little bit later if you folks have questions about program cadence, scheduling, those sorts of things. The other thing I just mentioned is that if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A while we're going through the slides or in the chat. I'm happy to answer those. And then we'll have some time for questions at the end also. So feel free to engage. We'd love your questions. So first, I'm curious, Virgie, if you can give us an idea of kind of how you personally think about contracts from a risk lens. So at what stage generally do you get involved, and what does that review process from a risk standpoint look like?
So I view contracts from a risk perspective, focusing on where obligations, liabilities, and controls meet the business goals. So I technically get involved during the early phase of the contracting, during definition, initial
Mhm.
draw review, shaping the terms before issues being fixed. And I stay engaged through negotiations, executions, and including the amendments to manage the changes. So, a practical risk review means spotting key exposures in finance, regulatory, or operations. So, I'm exposed to all three of those. I link them to clauses like termination, delivery, performance, and data security. So I read the clauses and make sure they are, you know, a win-win situation for both
Mhm.
parties. What else? I make sure that the supplier is aware of what they're contracting to with regards to their performance metrics. And currently, because I work in an aerospace industry, so they need to comply with FAA regulations.
Mhm.
And I explain to them in plain languages, especially for small businesses who doesn't have a legal department. They sometimes don't understand clauses. Some are
Right.
ambiguous, and so I would explain to them in simple terms. And if there are further questions that I could not, explain, I would reach out to our legal team
Mhm.
so they can, join the negotiations or conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I know that I mean, I do a little bit of contract work, and sometimes when I'm in those conversations with vendors, they a lot of vendors really don't want a formal contract. They don't want a big long, especially small businesses, right? They want
Yeah.
like, oh, an email is fine, or we're just gonna
Mhm.
like let's just agree on the side. And from a business perspective, right, of my role is to be working and advocating on behalf of the law school. Your role obviously is to working advocate on behalf of your employer. Yeah, I mean, there is a tendency to want to distill that into more specific legal language. So I can
Yeah.
appreciate how those conversations are interesting. Um, what stage, if you could look at like the entire contract cycle, right? You chatted a little bit about the initiation and drafting and then kind of staying through negotiation and amendments. Is there a stage that you find is particularly susceptible to exposure in the compliance area? Is there a stage that you focus on more than others, maybe?
In my experience, I see two most of the time. So the first one is drafting. It tends to create the most compliance exposure because wording can be ambiguous
Mm-hmm.
and interpreted differently by both parties. For example, missing or vague FAA reporting clause can be misinterpreted along the contract. When the counterparty redline terms, I often need to consult legal to confirm whether my suggested wording meets regulatory and state code requirements. I can interpret it or word it differently, but the legal department has a different word for it as well. And
Right.
businesses, they have, they are more on business terminologies. So drafting the contract is a really pain for me. Um,
Yeah.
I have one contract whom I drafted, and it went on for 2 years before it gets
Oh,
executed. Yeah, because of
wow.
deadlines.
That is a long time. I've got one right now that I'm working through that is a few months.
Mm.
And that seems a long time. I can't imagine two
Yeah,
years.
2 years. It's really,
Wow.
really, really hard. And another one is negotiation.
Hmm.
So, someone who has knowledge in contract doesn't necessarily mean that person is skilled at negotiating.
Hmm.
So, you need to have both in order to make the contracting um, process a success. Uh,
Right.
because negotiation is vulnerable um, through priorities and outcomes needed by both parties. It can drag the execution in a very long time. One reason is conflicting opinions. So who should be giving in? Who should be
Right.
saying yes? Or when does the argument stop?
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, great highlight there. Um, when you are thinking about kind of risk, like identifying risk and mitigating contract risk, um, can you walk us through maybe an example of spotting risk in a contract and how you approach that? Maybe like, is there a particular language that you watch for, or when you're communicating, and this I find this often too, right? If I'm working with another team and
Mm.
I have a concern about certain language and trying to communicate that to the team, why they should have a concern about this too. I'm curious how you approach those conversations.
So every clauses has, a little bit of ambiguity. So
Hmm.
my company, since it's a bigger aerospace company, they have this contract negotiation playbook that they maintain. So if, let's say, if a supplier redline this wording, such as delivery, they may think that delivery is when the parts or the shipment is out from their facility,
Hmm.
but Boeing or my company thinks of it as when it is delivered. So
Right.
we have
Received.
a playbook uh, to uh, to have a standard response to suppliers,
Hmm.
so that they understand that they have to follow what is defined by the company. And so we'll just have to revise the language to suit their understanding.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, having that common language is really important, right? And defining it in contracts is really important because that's the stuff that will
Yeah.
get litigated later
Mm.
if there's breach in one way or another. Yeah. Um, when you are supporting business just like business units in within the organization, how do you work as a partner, a team player, right? And saying yes and supporting their business goals while still protecting the organization?
I it's kind of hard sometimes to
Hmm.
be an advocate to the the business company, and at the same time maintaining a relationship to your suppliers. So
Right.
you have to be in the middle. Um, I translate business objectives into sometimes a specific outcomes, and I practice trade-offs.
Hmm.
So let's say my supplier wants a sooner payment terms. Let's say, my company wants a longer payment
Hmm.
release terms. Let's say they want to pay in 120 days because they're
Hmm.
large companies. But my supplier is saying, I want it sooner because I want
Right.
to pay my employee right away and I have to, manage my cash flow. So we need to have we need to meet middle grounds there. So
Hmm.
I would suggest, why not, why don't I submit an approval for, let's say, 45 to 60 days?
Hmm.
Because 120 days for large company is our standard, and 30 days is, not acceptable. So
Right.
you need to be able to meet something in the middle, and then
Yeah.
let the business know that, of course, we're complying a little bit to the deviation request by the supplier, but I'll be managing their performance and make sure that they meet their performance goals.
Yeah, I think it's important. Sometimes, one of the most impactful roles that a compliance individual can have is that on the one hand, they are advocating on behalf of the organization in a legal space, right? But they're not lawyers traditionally, right? People get scared and really
Mhm.
anxious when the lawyers walk in the room, right? And
Yeah.
lawyers sometimes we don't um sometimes we dig our heels in and we draw lines in the ground that are way too firm, way too rigid, and we don't have the flexibility, right? Sometimes we need business folks to really kind of talk us down and make sure that we're being that we're mitigating the risk but also being really good business partners. So I
Yeah,
think the
that's why.
compliance individual is great there.
Yeah, that's why it's good that we are here in this business as a middle ground from the management
Hmm.
and lawyers, because if lawyers are negotiating in behalf of the management, I don't
Yeah.
think they'll succeed at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Sometimes we don't, right? We have trouble kind of like understanding the business goals behind it, and
Yeah.
working towards them. I'm curious, how did your MLS, so you were already working with the organization and you came to the MLS kind of mid-career. What inspired you to pursue the MLS, and then how did it shape and support your career goals?
So in I started my career in supply chain sometime in 2012. And so I started as a procurement agent. And then because it's a small company, I have dual role. I'm doing
Hmm.
procurement agent and I'm doing a little bit of contracting for spares. But um, it, since our company is very small, we have to reach out to a law department, and they get charged very
Right.
hefty amount of money whenever we reach out to law just to interpret one clause or one section.
Hmm.
And so I tried to sign up for a program that doesn't require me to become a lawyer, because I don't
Hmm.
litigations, things like that.
Right.
I just want to be able to understand law. But at that time, during that time, I couldn't find any school that can offer online,
Hmm.
and that is you know not that expensive, because
Hmm.
most of the schools that I'm seeing are very expensive. And then when I joined Boeing, and I found out that they're paying for master's and doctorate degree,
Hmm.
hurriedly, looked for a school. I first signed up for a school somewhere in St. Louis, but it's kind of hard. That's why I transferred to Seattle University, which
Hmm.
is really, really a good decision for me.
Well,
I
good. I'm
think,
glad.
yeah,
Were there any classes specifically that kind of inform your work?
my work, the courses in regulatory compliance and legal
Hmm.
writing are the
Yeah.
two courses. Oh, as well as the
Yeah.
contract law. So the three are the most useful courses that help me in my current work in
Hmm.
spotting language that are um, problematic, and it helped me write clear clauses and suggestive verbiage to to present to my suppliers.
That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, we hear regularly that legal writing, although it's very challenging, is also one of the courses that people really learn a lot from.
Yes.
So just kind of quickly before we wrap up, the you mentioned using employee benefits, right? We do have a
Mm.
lot of students. So if there are students or prospective students here who are interested in pursuing a degree, um, definitely check out your employee benefits. We've got a lot of students who use tuition benefits to pay
Yeah.
for tuition. The program is structured for working professionals. It is ideally most students, or I shouldn't say ideally, but many students approach a program over 2 years, right? 6 full semesters. We go year round. It's part-time and takes about the 24 months. The classes are in the evening. We don't have too many live classes. Most of the work is asynchronous, so you can do it kind of weekly on your own time. And we do have students that ramp up, right? Some students kind of take a leave of absence here or there, depending on work and life. And some students take 3 classes a semester instead of two and kind of do a little bit more quickly get through the program. So I'm curious if you have any tips or what would you tell your younger self when you were starting this? And I know you transferred in from a different institution, but is there anything that you wish you had known before you kind of jumped into this?
Um, I wish I would have enhanced my skills in writing because I struggled a lot in writing at that time.
Yeah.
So I took few classes in the previous school, but the
Hmm.
writing class here is extensive. But although it's extensive, it helped me a lot in drafting memos at work. A lot of my coworkers and even the legal department comes to me when it comes to drafting, and then
Oh,
uh,
cool.
yeah, the learning on how to research at LexisNexis,
Oh,
Bloomberg,
yeah.
and Westlaw. That is very beneficial
Yeah.
because not every researchers know how to navigate those sites.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention like, a little bit of a brag here at Seattle U. We have a top 10 legal writing program we have for
Yes,
years. And it's rigorous, but it is an amazing program and people
it's
really
very
leave
amazing.
both our master's and our JD programs with exceptional writing skills. And the research is fascinating. I mean, it's a lot of fun to be able to dig into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and reading, a lot of reading.
Yes.
Yeah, allocate at least maybe 8 to 10 hours a week of reading.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we definitely talk to students about planning to it's going to be, 15 to 20 hours a week of work on classes. And it depends a lot on kind of how strong your reading is. I'm a pretty slow
Mhm.
reader, so it
Yeah,
takes me a little bit to get through some things. It gets easier though. The reading does get easier as you move through the
yeah.
program.
Over time, yeah.
For sure. Just last kind of questions. Happy to answer some. We haven't gotten any in the chat, but I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has some, or if you want to put them in the Q&A. Um, some of the more frequent questions that we get from students is, again, like how long is it? Can I do it faster? Can I do it slower? We do have students who take time off over the summers because their kids are out of school or a semester here for a new baby or something like that. It happens all the time. So please know that that's a possibility. We also have students who finish the program in as short as about 12 to 18 months, right? If they're really kind of pursuing it aggressively, because either their work is flexible enough or maybe they're not working at the time. And then we answered the question how much time per week, but that definitely is a common question. I'm trying to think of other common questions that I get regularly. Um, I get a lot of questions about, why Seattle U, and I think I'm curious, Virgie, to hear your perspective, especially because you have got a perspective of another institution alongside. But our writing program is top notch. It's amazing. But I think one of the other things that we really encourage our students to do is ask really hard questions and think about how do we implement compliance in a really ethical and human-centered way. Not just what is the law, but what the law should be, or how do I approach this contract in a way that's going to benefit both my small business supplier and my
Mhm.
really large corporation, right? How do you bridge those gaps? It doesn't mean that the larger corporation is always should win or needs to win on a particular issue. So, um, yeah. Anything else you'd add, Virgie, kind of in the last few minutes here?
Um, I just want to let the students know that if you join MLS, you're in the right track. I just recently found out that every department in where I work, there's compliance and risk
Oh, yeah.
management. Yes, so you'll never be out of job.
Yeah, no, it's true. Compliance is a huge, huge part of every
Yeah.
organization. I joke sometimes that compliance has been around for a really long time. We just didn't call it compliance. We called it
Yes,
human resources or legal or
process.
something like that. Um, and I should mention that we have a lot of electives in the compliance program, right? I'm sure that some students have seen, like we've got healthcare electives and financial electives and corporate compliance. Our students can take any of those electives. You don't
Yeah,
have to just stay in one section. So that's always a benefit if students are like, well, I want a little bit of corporate or a little bit of healthcare, a little bit of finance. All of the electives are open to you, so you don't have to pick a specific track.
yeah.
Um, with that, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I really appreciate you all for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to me. My information is on the screen here. Um, Reach out with any other questions. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to make time for students, prospective students on my calendar. And I thank you so much, Virgie, for being here. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to have you kind of stay engaged with the program and love that everything's going well for you at work.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.